Right.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, and we're rolling. Okay, so to find out what our target audience was, we kind of decided to use a survey method to find out what people would want to see and what our target audience actually was consisted of. To do so, we went on a website called surveymonkey.com, which is a free questionnaire hosting website, and we made a survey to produce some audience research results that we got from both our peers, our family, and basically anyone who would actually respond to the quiz. From this, we asked a few questions and we gave them the web link. And the following results basically determined that our age group was between 14 to 16 years of age, with a few over that age, but not much. Typically male, and they seem to enjoy supernatural and psychological horror films, as well as a slight leaning towards apocalyptic. But we decided to go for the supernatural and psychological since they were a little bit easier to actually produce. We then thought and looked at the kind of sociological aspects of what those within the audience would enjoy. So males between the ages of 14 to 16 would probably be going through puberty and would most likely be heterosexual, and therefore we figured that one of the main interests would be girls, which is why we had one of the original people or the original characters in our cut as a stereotypical kind of female bimbo stereotype trope. They stereotyped too many times there. Crap. That was an awkward laugh, Jesus. From there, we kind of worked our way forward. We looked at different kind of characters within horror movies. Often what a lot of typical mainstream horror pictures had was kind of these blank slate main characters in which the audience could project themselves upon, which is why we really didn't give the character that Dan was playing very much to say or many emotions except for the typical ones of primal kind of fear and kind of, desire to find out what's going on in the house. It's one of the reasons why it's so enigmatic, as in there's no real context to it other than him going into the house. We also looked at what kind of antagonists the typical 14 to 16-year-old cis-het male crowd would like, and we kind of figured that they'd quite like something with a really scary antagonist. But that in itself was quite difficult because there is no one principal antagonist that will scare everything and everyone. So we basically worked off of typical fear of the unknown. We made Cameron's character something that really didn't have much of a speaking role either, that just followed him around, was always kind of in the shadows until his very final reveal in which he basically kills Dan. We thought that the whole aspect of the shovel being the one to kill him really exemplified the violence, and which was one of the reasons why we actually spent so much time and so much build-up on the actual violent act of Dan getting killed. We thought that that was something that our target demographic would really, really want to see in a horror movie. The whole setting of a haunted house is something that many 14 to 16-year-olds would actually be able to identify with, because A, most of them would live in a house, and B, quite a few of them would know how it's like to be scary. Plus, in a lot of TVs and dramas and such, a haunted house is often presented as a typical kind of setting for a scary horror movie kind of picture. Story-wise, there actually isn't that much of a story, really, other than at face value. If you look into it, then yeah, I suppose by looking at the language of the film, you'll be able to point out a few things. But the typical 14 to 16-year-old male film goer isn't really going to be looking that far into a story or really analysing it into metadata that much. And henceforth, we didn't really find that we needed to construct that much of a story to appeal to a mainstream audience. So to really put it forward, we addressed them through our creation of the film, and we figured out our target demographic fairly easily.